Welcome to my new discussion on the basic concepts of social philosophy. Today, we explore the key ideas that shape human social life: society, social groups, community, association, institutions, folkways, and mores. These foundational concepts help us understand interaction, culture, and social order. Presented by Feel for Philosophy.
All right, so today we're going to go on a bit of an architectural tour, but we're not looking at buildings. Nope. We're going to deconstruct the invisible architecture that shapes our entire lives. Everything from who we fall in love with to why we automatically stand in a line. We're about to learn how to read the blueprint of society itself.
I mean, really, think about that for a second. Why do you shake one person's hand but give another a hug? Why do you feel that sense of belonging to your neighborhood, your town? These things are not random. They are all part of this massive, incredibly intricate social blueprint. And if we can learn how to read it, we can start to really understand the forces that guide our world.
And the field that studies this blueprint is called social philosophy. But it doesn't just want to map out how society works. The real goal, the bigger goal, is to critically examine that map and ask a really powerful question. Could we build this better?
To even begin to understand the blueprint, we have to start with the biggest piece on the board: the idea of society itself. And it might seem simple, but believe me, it's way, way more than just a bunch of people living in the same country.
The philosopher MacGyver put it perfectly. He called society a web of relationships. And that's what it is. It's the connections, the interactions, the shared understandings that tie all of us together into one cohesive whole. It's the framework for our entire lives. So what makes this whole web actually work? Well, it all starts with mutual awareness. We have to recognize each other's existence to even form relationships. Then, those relationships are guided by shared norms and values. Within that system, we have a division of labor. You're a doctor, I'm a teacher, someone else is a farmer, all these different roles that help the whole thing function. And when you put it all together, it creates this force. Society itself becomes something greater than just the sum of its parts, and it has this profound influence on who we all become.
Of course, not everyone's position in this social web is created equal. Most societies are structured in layers, a concept we call stratification. And here are two major systems. On one side, you have the caste system. It's a closed framework where your role in life is decided at birth and there's almost no room to move up or down. But on the other side, you've got the class system, which is much more open. Here, your status can be achieved through things like education, skill, and hard work, which allows for social mobility. This isn't just some abstract difference, it's a huge philosophical one about whether our potential is fixed from the moment we're born or if it's something we can actually build ourselves.
Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. Society is the big picture, right? But our actual day-to-day lives are lived in smaller, more tangible clusters. So let's take a look at how we form communities and groups.
A community is so much more than just your zip code. It's that local sphere where we really live out our lives. We work, we play, we interact, all within a shared space. It's where the massive, abstract idea of society becomes real, personal, and tangible.
The glue that really holds a community together is this powerful we feeling, this conscious sense of unity and belonging. It's a shared identity that lets people in a specific area work together towards common goals. And over time, that's how they develop their own unique common culture.
Now, even within our communities, we form even smaller circles. Social philosophy usually splits these into two main types. First, you have primary groups. Think about your family or your absolute closest friends. These groups are small, intimate, and deeply personal. The relationship itself is the point. Then you have secondary groups. These are more like a political party or a club at work. They're often more formal and goal-oriented. You join them to achieve a specific purpose, not necessarily just for the warm and fuzzy feelings.
So, if we think of groups as the players in our society, what are the teams they play on, and what are the rule books they follow? Well, that brings us to associations and institutions, the formal structures that basically organize the entire game of social life.
An institution isn't a building with pillars out front. It's a set of established rules and procedures. Think about things like marriage, private property, or the legal system. These are the fundamental patterns that regulate our behavior and give society stability. They are, quite literally, the rules of the game.
And here are some of the real heavy hitters. You've got the family, which provides social stability. The whole concept of private property. Education, which transmits knowledge from one generation to the next. Religion, providing moral frameworks.
and law, which enforces order. These institutions are the very pillars holding up our society.
Okay, so if institutions are the rules of the game, then associations are the teams we form to actually play it. An association is a group we choose to join, and that's the key word, choose, to pursue some kind of shared interest or achieve a specific goal. The crucial thing to remember about associations is that they're deliberate and organized. You join by choice, they have clear objectives, and they operate with formal rules. Think of a labor union fighting for workers' rights, or even a simple book club organized to talk about literature. These are the structures we build to get things done together.
All right, let's zoom in one last time, down to the most granular micro level. We've talked about the big, formal structures, but what about the invisible social software that's running in the background, guiding our minute-to-minute interactions?
This is where folkways come in. These are the informal, unwritten customs of daily life. We're talking about things like saying bless you when someone sneezes, or how you form a line at the grocery store. Breaking a folkway isn't illegal, it just makes you seem, well, rude or a little strange.
Mores, on the other hand, are a much bigger deal. These are norms that are tied directly to a society's core moral values. They really define what's considered right and wrong. So violating mores, things like theft or vandalism, doesn't just make you seem odd, it invites serious social condemnation.
Let's make this crystal clear. Okay, speaking way too loudly on a bus, that's breaking a folkway. People might give you a dirty look, right? But vandalizing that same bus, that violates a more, a core value about respecting public property, and the consequences are going to be way more severe. It's the difference between being impolite and being seen as genuinely immoral by the rest of society.
So we've gone all the way from the macro level of society right down to the micro level of our daily habits. But what's the point? Why does knowing all this stuff, understanding this social blueprint, actually matter?
Because social philosophy isn't just about labeling things. It's an active process. First, you understand these structures, which is what we've just been doing. Then you analyze the values they're promoting. After that comes the important part. You critique them. You look for unfairness, for injustice, and finally, you get to envision how they could be better, aiming for a society that promotes justice and human dignity for everyone.
And this right here, this is the crucial point. Understanding the blueprint of our society, all the institutions, the norms, the groups, it's not just some academic exercise. That's the first step. It gives us the tools to stop being just passive inhabitants and start becoming active architects, people who are capable of questioning what is and working towards what ought to be.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have a basic map of our social world, now that you can see the structures that shape your life, if you could pick up a pen and redraw just one part of that blueprint, what would it be? Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages me to create more content. Thank you.